gosh, sorry, I'm making a ruckus back here.
Well, Greg, you are our first attendee as it's listed, so welcome.
It is a smaller group today. We have a lot more for Wednesday.
I promoted Greg to a new position.
I appreciate that. I always wanted a promotion.
It does not have a pay increase. Sorry.
Charles
Hey,
won't be
April.
able to attend. Charles will not be able to attend.
Oh,
Alright.
He's in the hospital. I don't think
Oh, I'm
he's gonna
sorry
be
to hear
able to
that.
attend. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. How are you, April?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Charles just had surgery, so that's why I don't think
Oh.
he's gonna be on today.
I'm sorry to hear that. I hope he gets feeling better.
Yeah. I went up there and I saw him on Thursday at the hospital.
good.
I saw him. Yeah, one of my staff had took me up there to see him.
I'm glad you got to see him. I bet that was encouraging to him.
Yeah, yeah. That's my best friend.
It's nice when your best friend can come and show up when you're not able to
Yes,
go
'cause we don't
places.
get to see each other. We don't get to see each other very often. You know, I only get to see them like a few times since in the past couple of years since I've been out of Shapiro. You know, so it was nice seeing them.
Well, you can let him know that there'll be a recording of this so that if he wants to see in action, he'll get a second opportunity.
Okay.
Jennifer, I'll pop these in.
All right,
I don't,
thank you.
I don't know how to pin them.
What?
We've all been looking. I think all three of us, Rio and I and April looked too, and it does not appear that you can pin them when we're in this presentation, like the webinar mode. So
Want me to get rid of mine since you just put that in? There you go, Rio. I just got rid of mine. Are you going to paste in there or you want me to, Rio? During the meeting.
I don't care. I don't mind doing it, but if you
Okay.
want to, you can.
No, it's all yours. I'm just here as backup. Let me
Okay.
know if you need if and what you need me to do. I'm here
Okay.
as backup.
Thanks. Jennifer, did you want me to post all of those links that you included or only the ones that said to be pinned to the top? Oh, never mind. All the resources.
yeah, I was thinking that as we hit the resource page that we could plop them in because it takes a little bit for us to get the link out, and that way if people want to, they'll have access to the links. A lot of times I'll just copy and paste whatever's in the chat while we're going so I can catch it later.
Sounds good.
And I see Caitlin Crabb has joined us as an attendee. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hello, Caitlin. How are you today? It's Greg. Well, good for a snowy, gloomy evening is not bad. I'm glad to hear it.
Nice to see you all.
Yeah, I was surprised it actually snowed here. I was not expecting it.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
We got a little snow yesterday also, but it wasn't that much. It wasn't really sticking.
Yeah, I'm in Skokie by the lake. We got probably 3 inches up here.
Yeah.
Wow. That's clearly color me shocked. I did not realize anywhere got like that much.
Yeah, it took a plow to come down the street and clear it off. So I mean, not that you couldn't drive on top of 3 inches, you can't, but I mean, couldn't see the pavement, so.
Well, I guess it's begun. Have to
It's not-
just receive that winter's coming and just lean in, can enjoy
It
it.
doesn't have to be dark and gloomy and gray all the time. I could
Exactly.
handle it if it wasn't dark, gloomy, and gray.
Well, it just means we gotta get through winter to get to spring.
And we have Amber Williams joining us. Welcome, Amber.
I think since
just-
we don't have sorry to cut you off, Jennifer, since we
That's
don't have a second section today, we can give folks until like 5:05 to filter in.
Yeah. That makes sense. Becca had shared that we've got a smaller crowd today. We got a larger one on Wednesday. So
Supposedly Bob, Peterson and John were coming.
nice.
Maybe they're having technological issues. There's Bob.
Hi, Bob. For those who aren't seeing the chat, Bob gave us a hello as well. He says hi.
All right, we can give folks just another minute to come in, and I think we can just expect folks to be arriving late today. It's very gloomy outside, so maybe folks are slow getting back home.
I'm curious, do you all see the message that we shared earlier? It has a link for successful meeting strategies. I know sometimes in some setups, people can see messages that have already been posted, and sometimes we need to repost them again. All right, we've got to know. So at some point, we might want to pop those in again if we get some other folks joining. Oh, thanks, Greg. And welcome, Susan. I see you've joined us. Thanks for signing in and coming for our meeting today.
I'll keep it. I don't know if a bunch of people, and then I'll repost stuff.
Sounds great.
All right, do you guys feel ready to get started? April, do you feel ready?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Great. Welcome, everyone, to our November Rev Up Illinois virtual meeting. I'm Rio Goodwin Perez. Today, we're going to be talking about creating your personal legislative contact plan. And today, we are very privileged to be led by the one and only Jennifer Thibodeaux Sands, Senior Community Mobilization Manager at the ARC of Illinois. Today is November 10th. And our host this evening is April Mcclees. She transitioned through the Shapiro Developmental Center and multiple Scylla homes. She has overcome challenges with self-harm, defiance, and community reintegration. She has moved into her current Scylla home in June 2023. She achieved her GED in under a year and got her dream job at Goodwill. She currently lives with supportive roommates and staff, and she's very active in her community. And she advocates for access to less restrictive Scylla homes for all. So I'd like to pass things off to April, who's going to be our host tonight.
Thank you, Rio. Hi, everyone. As Rio said, my name is April, and I have been a member of the Going Home Coalition and the Rev Up Illinois for almost 3 years, and I'm very excited to be your host this evening. This is my first time hosting, so I'm a little nervous. So to start us off today, I'll walk you through tonight's agenda. Next slide. Welcome. Creating your personal legislative contact plan by Jennifer. I can't pronounce it.
Let me help you with that. Thibodeaux.
Thibodeaux Sands, Senior Community Mobilization Manager at ARC of Illinois. What's coming up for Illinois and Going Home Coalition? Next slide. Jennifer Thibodeaux Sands, Senior Community Manager of the ARC Illinois, disability advocate and self-advocate, parent and educator of 5 adults with disabilities, Illinois partner and policy making graduate and faculty advisor, sociology student, trained in person-centered planning and inclusive communication, focused on communication engagement and advocacy, enjoys music, learning, and family and friends.
Thank you, April. I really appreciate that. And I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up on the pronunciation of my name. It can throw us all a little bit here and there. I am going to pull up my slides and see if I can. All right. Can you see my slides?
No.
Okay. We will. I might need. It says that it's paused.
Try unpausing. Yeah, like Amber said, it looks like it's loading on our end.
Okay. Well, I might need some remedial support here.
Do you want me to try and see if I can run it from my end, Jennifer?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay.
I s- yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing because I think we might do better. There we go. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you saving me with that tech glitch there, Rio.
No worries.
Everybody, just want to welcome you again to our November Rev Up Illinois meeting. We're going to talk about creating a legislator contact plan. Next slide, please. And so we're going to talk in the next, excuse me, half hour or so, a little bit about me. We're going to look back at our October meetings and talk about how we're going to bring things together. I want to give you a bird's eye view on how a couple of things work in our legislative world, and then talk about how we can each create our own personal contact plan. And then I've got some resources that we'll have in the slides. We're also going to drop them in the chat so that you can get to them immediate gratification if you want to, but we'll also be sharing the slides in the next, I think, week or so. So you'll have that. And then we'll have a conclusion. So next slide, please. All right, a little bit about me. Starting off with, I have lived experience. I'm a disability advocate. I have disabilities that are usually hidden, although sometimes they pop out and people are aware and can see them. I am a child of a parent with disabilities and a parent to young adult with disabilities, and we have a wide variety of disabilities in our household, from hidden ones to apparent ones, deafness, CP, a whole lot of neurodivergence going on. And we really work together to support one another. So there's a lot of that going on here. I am a graduate of the Illinois Partners in Policy Making Class 3, which I got invited to by one of the professionals in our community. It invited both my son and I to take part in it. And then after I took part of it, I think 4 out of my 5 kids ended up taking part of it. And we really we gained so much information. And some of it is things that we've been sharing the last couple of weeks. But one of the things is when I walked away, I had a lot of specific information. I knew what to do with some of it. But when it came to creating like this contact plan, I was still a little bit not sure how to go about it. So that's why I talk to different people to learn about it so that I can share it with you all as well. As April shared, I'm a sociology student. I am 2 classes away from graduating, so just a handful of months. I'm really excited about that. Other training I've received. I'm a financial wellness trainer through the National Disability Association, NDI. There's a lot of people in our state who are trained. If you ever have an opportunity to take any of the modules with the NDI financial wellness curriculum, I really, really encourage it. They've got a great program. I received training in customized employment for discovery, job development, and systematic instruction. Another great program through Mark Golden Associates. And if you ever have the opportunity to take advantage of customized employment, we recently got some more legislation passed through the state to make it more available. And my eldest has gone through customized employment, and I highly recommend it. It's been great. A path, person-centered planning, where we can really focus on what our dreams are, North Star dreams, and how to have steps to get there. I had the opportunity to be a faculty advisor with Partners in Policymaking for classes 4 through 6. And every time I went through the program, I learned more. And finally, because of my education, I got to do an internship here at the Arc of Illinois, and they decided that they wanted to keep me. So I am freshly minted Senior Community Mobilization Manager. I'm really excited how we can all work together and make some good trouble here in the state. I'm ready for the next slide. So looking back, one of the things that we wanted to do this fall was to really help people who might not be as familiar with how to communicate with legislators and how to share our stories, to just really shore up some of those skills. Because as we all know, we've got a lot going on here in our nation and in our state that we really want to see differently, and how those changes are going to come about, as we heard from Diane Husby Gordon and Gary Arnold, is to share our stories and to share them in very strategic ways and to share them individually and in community. And so once we talked about how important those things are, we wanted to give some ideas for how to put that in action and have it be in a way that we can be prepared for. And there's a number of different ways we can do it, which I'll be sharing in a few minutes, but then there's some things that we can be planning ahead and deciding ahead of time when we want to reach out and what we might want to say. So I really encourage if you have not seen either of those, to go back. They're available on our Going Home Coalition YouTube channel, and really worth watching and getting familiar with. They were fabulous presentations. Next slide, please. All right, so as I said, I got a lot of amazing training, and I did get some very specific direction on how to use that training. But some of the questions that I had, especially when I was talking with Diane and I was talking with Gary, was how do we use these skills that you're equipping us with so that we can be most effective? When specifically should we reach out? How often should I reach out so that I can be somebody that our legislators are familiar with, but yet not so often that they might be willing or tempted to tune me out sometimes? So kind of, where is that Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold? Where is that spot where they're like, oh, Jennifer's calling, or April's calling, or Rio, like, they know about disability and I have questions, and I know that they have answers. So those were some of the questions I had. And I'm wondering what questions you guys might have. So go ahead and take a few minutes and type them in the chat. They might be ones that I end up answering in this presentation, but if they're not, we want to know what your questions are so that we can make sure to either answer one-on-one or even make sure that we address that in some of our activities and meetings that we're going to have coming ahead. Next slide, please. So looking forward, I wanted to provide a bird's eye view of key times to reach out to our legislators. One of the things that I didn't really understand was the seasons of our legislators, and I don't think we necessarily need this to be effective in our advocacy, but I think it's also helpful to know so that we can be on the lookout for some opportunities. And then I wanted to go over the life of the bill so that we have an idea again of when are key times that we might want to reach out. Next slide, please. All right, one of the things that Diane Husby Gordon shared, again, go back and watch her. She was phenomenal. She has been a staffer in Illinois Senator Faraci's office. And what she spoke on were some of the things that really surprised her, that she learned when she was in office. And she gave us some tips on how to be effective. So one of the things that she really stressed is to make sure to reach out, not just our community needs are important, and that's one of the things we gather and we come together, but how to reach out about our personal needs as well. So if we think of it, those are two like main branches, our personal needs and our community needs. And we're going to talk about our personal needs first with their next slide. So legislators, aside from all the things they do with bills and all of that, the community standpoint, they are here to help us as individuals with some of our individual needs. They can provide disaster relief and crisis support, again, for the community, but also for us as individuals. Sometimes, what pops into my head is Hurricane Katrina. That was a huge disaster, and the whole community needed some support in lots of different ways. But there are times that maybe an individual, one household is having trouble paying their electric bill, or maybe somebody is having trouble getting through to one of the state agencies and having trouble maybe with their SSI, Social Security. Those are just as devastating and crisis for an individual, and our legislators can help us with those. So when you are facing some of these things, one of the things to remember is we do have some resources, and I don't think a lot of us are aware of that. They can provide some relief and support. They can connect their constituents with resources. When I started getting involved in politics and systems change, started hearing this word constituents a lot. And that's just a fancy word that's for people who are elected, that are people represented by the elected officials. So when I'm talking to my legislator, we've got different parts of our community. It's broken up into districts. So when I have a challenge, even though we have a whole bunch of legislators, I'm going to go to the one whose district that I'm in. And when I've got opinions, I'm going to end up going to that person for rather than maybe somebody in the next district over. They're really going to focus and listen to the people that they've got that elected them into office. So I have lost visual on the screen, and I'm curious if anybody else has.
Sorry, I'm not
Mine's
sure what
back.
happened.
Yeah, we can't see.
Okay. I am.
There you go.
It's back now.
We got it
Okay.
back? Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
No worries. I'm gonna try to get back to you all. There we go. All right. Another thing, if you just don't understand what is going on, our programs can be very complex. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I've called places and I've gotten conflicting information. So people are human, they don't always know. Maybe they're new at their jobs, they're learning. Maybe laws have changed and they haven't been made aware of that yet. But it is our legislators' responsibility to help us understand these complex programs and different kind of regulations. So ideally, we're putting everything out there in plain language, and we are working toward that. But until that day comes, and even if we have plain language, if you need some assistance, go ahead and give them a call, whether it's the legislator or somebody, a staffer in their office. That's one of the things they can do for us. The other thing that they can do is act as a liaison. And a liaison, again, another fancy words, that's somebody who helps communicate between two people or groups of people. They can listen to us, and then they can talk to one of the government agencies. They might submit an inquiry, means they start a process, so that agency has to go and get and see where the case is, checking the status of the case. They can help find solutions, and they can help sometimes speed up services or resolve roadblocks. So I've got a personal story with this. I won't go into the details, but probably about 10 or 12 years ago, I ran into a problem between a couple of agencies, and I had legislators that were ready to help me. And I thought at the moment, one of the state agencies and some of the federal government, they were like, oh, well, we're working on this. So I decided to be patient and did not take up my legislators on their gracious offers to help me. And looking back, I wish I had. I think it would have gotten our situation resolved so much sooner than it did. So from someone who didn't take advantage of that, I'm encouraging everybody to go ahead. If they say they want to help, definitely say yes and see what happens. Next slide, please. So the best way to contact them, Diane had shared with us, giving them a call is great. And you can send them an email, but one of the best ways would be to call or email and then to use those as opportunities to arrange a meeting. When do you do that? When the problems are happening. Even though our legislators might be in the middle of a session and might not be as available to us, they have staffers in each of their offices. A lot of times they have one, whether it's in Springfield or Washington, D.C., but a lot of times they have district offices, maybe multiple ones. And even when the representatives and senators are away, the staffers are there and they can still help us. Be prepared when you call, and you can so you can share that this is the problem. This is what we've done. These are the results that we've gotten so far, what's been accomplished, or maybe this is not what's happened that we wanted to happen. And this is what we need from you and what we'd like for you to help us with. Or I don't know what to do next. I'm at a loss. Can you tell me what I need to do next? So if you have thought of some of those questions and you're prepared for them, that can really help them to help you better. And then the other thing that Diane had shared with us is to remember that each and every one of our personal challenges are types of problems that it's not just us who's having the problem. If we're having the problem, who knows how many other people in the community are. And so when they hear us, we become real tangible people to them. We become real stories. We become a lot of times success stories of how they got to help somebody in the community, which a lot of times is why they wanted to do this job to begin with. So what might start off as a very individual personal challenge may be the start of solving a community problem. And when we get to know them better and then they have those successes, it's may not only just be their office, they can share those things with other legislators as well. Next slide, please. So community needs. I would love it if a few people can share in the chat some of the community needs that really have your attention right now. Like what, and maybe some of it is like the headlines that everybody has, include that. And maybe there's something that is more personal that impacts you, or a community that you're involved with that isn't getting a lot of press right now. Go ahead and share some of that. So when we're talking about community needs, all right, I'm seeing SNAP benefits for my son. Yes, thank you, Diana, for sharing that one. SNAP, Medicaid, mental health support. Absolutely. Thank you, Caitlin. See if anyone else. PACE services. That is also an excellent one. I know they've reduced services in Chicago, and there's a lot of places that need better services for transportation to begin with. So thank you for sharing that one, April. And Diana said she was going to share PACE too. So excellent. Thank you. So when we're reaching out to our legislators, what are some of the ways, the best ways we can reach out to them? Phone calls, emails, meetings, and then I'm going to go back, witness slips. Maybe raise your hand or put up a reaction if witness slips are something that you're familiar with. Or in the chat, you can share that as well. Or maybe it's something Maybe witness slips are something that you're uncomfortable with. All right, we've got somebody that's saying they're not familiar with them. I was familiar with a lot of these things that I'm talking about, but witness slips was something that is more recent to me. And the first few times I had to do a witness slip, honestly, it was uncomfortable and I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't confident about it. The wording felt awkward. But as Diane, again, I keep referring to Diane, once you've done 2, 3, 4 of them, they get familiar, and that's something that you can almost do in your sleep. And so we've got some resources to help us get familiar with witness slips. And then we have some, a lot of times when people are doing calls to actions, they'll even let you know how to go about. All right. Um, Bob's got his hand up. He's comfortable, or he's familiar with witness slips as well. Thank you. So when do we do these contacts? During key points in the life of a bill, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then another one is during monthly legislative action meetings. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about detail in that, because that's a big one that I heard from Diane personally, and she shared with us in really good detail in our October Rev Up meeting. We want to be prepared to know the seasons of our legislators, watch trackers, and listen to calls to action. There's some materials that we can have prepared ahead of time, and then we can team up with others, and I'll give a few tips about that. Next slide, please. So the seasons of our legislators. This is something that one of our employees at the ARC really brought to my attention recently. I see a lot of calls to actions at various times, but when she said she wanted to do a presentation to help people understand witness slips better in February, because there's like a season when we see a lot of them happening, even though they can happen at various times. So that made me really curious to understand. So I found out that the US Congress, each Congress lasts 2 years. And not all states are set up the same way, but the Illinois General Assembly, which is those are the similar kinds of things. So we've got the president and the governor, we have the US Supreme Court, we've got the Illinois courts, and then we have our representatives and senators, and we call them the Congress in the US side and the General Assembly in Illinois. And they're every 2 years. They both start on the even years. That's generally when we've got our House of Representatives are voted in at certain intervals. And then we've got our first year is referred to as the first session, and the second year is the second session. And we use the word session in different ways. So we've got each of them, they're broken into 2 years. And one of the things that I learned was that a bill can be introduced at the beginning of a session, and it can stay open for that entire 2 years. Sometimes it gets there's different terms for it, but sometimes it dies in committee, or it just gets stopped and they say, nope, we're not going to do this anymore. But when you introduce a bill and you get a name and you get a number, that can stay active for the entire 2 years if it does not get through the process before the end of that Congress or General Assembly. It is game over, all done. And if we still want to get that topic addressed, then we've got to reintroduce a new bill, a new name, and start the process all over again. So I see in the comments, April, thank you for sharing, getting confused about witness slips when it's propose and oppose means. And I'm with you on that. That got really tricky with me. So I'm going to touch base on that just a little bit in a few slides here. But for the legislators, they work a little bit different. Our US Congress, they're in session most of the time. They do have a long recess in August, and then they do have short breaks throughout the year. So you'll hear maybe there are senators and House representatives, they'll talk about they're in district. And so those are the times that you want to perk your ear and hear that they're in district. And then those are the times when you might want to schedule meetings with the actual legislators. Other times, if you have meetings, a lot of times it'll be with the staffers. But if you want to actually have a meeting with the legislator, you want to be aware of when they're in district as opposed to in session. In the state of Illinois, we have a regular session which opens in January and it goes through May. And then they go on recess. And then they have just a couple of weeks in the fall, and that's a veto session. That's the time when if there were bills that were passed and then the governor vetoed it, that veto session is so that our legislators can go through the process again to vote and see if they can get enough people to vote to override that veto. I did learn that they can actually introduce new bills in that veto session and try to get it through real quick. It's a really small amount of time. Or maybe it's the first year in the session, so they might introduce it then so they can pick up more momentum in January. But most definitely in the Illinois General Assembly, there's a lot more time when our senators and representatives are in district. With the House in the state of Illinois, there are definitely times that when you can have a bill be proposed. So if you want to introduce a bill generally by February, and it's late February for House bills and mid-February for Senate bills. If they introduce it later, it can be possible they can give extensions, but it can be really difficult to pass. So that's why when we're talking about state of Illinois, we're going to have a lot of witness slips sometime between like March and into May, so that we've got that time. So that's when you can keep your ears perked. On the federal side, for the US government, they can introduce bills at any time during those 2 years, and it'll stay open for those two. And again, if it isn't passed by the end of the 2 years, it dies, it needs to be reintroduced. So that's just like a bird's eye view of the sessions of our legislators. And if you have any more questions or want to learn about that, make sure to let us know and we'll find time to share more details. But next slide, please. And now we're going to go on to the life of a bill. I think I've got a link to if you all know the Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill, that does a really great overview. And then there's some links to some legislative on the state and the federal level where there's a little more detail. But basically, 7 steps, really quick. To create a bill, it comes from an idea. And a lot of times it's an idea on one of us, the constituents, one of our minds. We have an idea and we're like, this ought to be a law. So we can talk about it. We talk to our legislators about it. Maybe we talk to a bunch of people and we go together in a group. Maybe it comes from one of our personal problems, and the legislators that have been helping us have seen it enough that they're like, we need to do something about this. So however you do that, the idea comes and we have this policy proposal. So they'll write out the proposal and then they've got to put it in legislative language. So it follows all of the laws and the rules so that it can get passed through the system and everybody's on the same page of what things mean. Then the next step is it gets sponsored by legislators. A lot of times there might be a main sponsor and there might be a bunch of co-sponsors, and the idea is to show a lot of support for this. So there may be times when even in the creation of the bill that you're getting calls to action from different people and communities that are saying, reach out to your representatives, to your House of Representatives, to your senators, and encourage them to be a co-sponsor to show support. And then they'll introduce it to one of the chambers. So when we talk about chambers, we've got the House of Representatives and we've got the senators. And a bill can start in either one of them. Sometimes they can start similar bills in both of them and they go through the process at the same time. But A lot of them will start off in one. So step two, the first chamber will put it in different committee meetings. They don't have all of the legislators look at it at once. They have small groups of people that they'll say, hey, take a look at this, research it, discuss it. And then they do something called markup, which just means that they will actually change the wording. Maybe they'll hear from people on what will make the bill better, what will make it less harmful to people, and they mark it all up. And at that point, the bill can die in committee, which means they're like, we're not going to do anything about it, but we're also not going to make it official. We're just going to set it to the side and not pay attention to it anymore. And the majority of the ideas, majority of the bills that get a number and get a name will die in committee. It won't go any further. The other thing they can do is report it out. And to report it out means that the committee says, all right, this is good. We approve, and now we want it to go to the entire chamber. So if it got introduced in the Senate, they're going to put it on the Senate floor where they're going to discuss it. They're going to debate it. You might be asked to give testimony to try to help everybody see how important it is. They might make some changes and then they're going to vote on it. And if they vote to pass it, then it goes over to the other chamber. So if it started in the Senate, they're going to move it over to the House of Representatives, and they're going to repeat that whole process again. At the end, as you imagine, if there's been debates and changes and things, there might be two different versions that have been passed. So step 5 is, they call it resolution, where they're going to they're going to have a committee of people, so a small number of people that are going to work everything out so that there's just one version, and they make sure both chambers are agreeing that this is okay, and then they'll send it over to the president or the governor to either sign it or veto it, or they might ignore it. And there's some rules of what happens if they ignore it. Depending on when they ignore it, sometimes it automatically becomes a law, and sometimes if they ignore it, then it doesn't at all. So that depends on some details that are too much for a bird's eye view, but that's the general part of it. And if it gets vetoed, then we get into that number 7, veto override, where you might have a majority of the House or the Senate that say yes, but if the governor or the president vetoes it and says, no, I don't want this, then they've got to get even more people to agree. Now, what I did learn from Diane is that a lot of times when there's a veto, there might just be a few things that need to be updated. And then the governor or the president can make that clear, and they can get those updates, and then they'll be willing to sign it. So that's a little bit of just the life of a bill, and not as fun as the song. So if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to get on that link and take a look at that. And it's pretty memorable. So next slide, please. All right, creating your own personal plan. You've got things to consider when you're going to make your plan. You want to keep your eye out for some opportunities, and there's a couple of ways you can do that through trackers and calls to action, as well as maybe friends or family members who are really up on things and they can keep you up to date. And then the last thing is that there are things that you can prepare for, so that a lot of times a call to action will come and they want you to act real fast. But there are some things that you can do ahead of time so that you're just ready to act when it comes. So next slide, please. Things to consider when you're creating your contact plan. Any type, when I'm talking to a group of advocacy, no matter what marginalized communities it might be, remember you are one person. It does not all depend on you. And there are times in our lives when we can really give it our all, and there's times when we might need to pull back. So just pace yourself. Things are really important. And the more of us that are working together, the better, but also take care of yourself, and maybe have some people around you to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Think about who you might want to partner with for meetings. One of the things Diane said is, if you're going to have a very specific focus that you're going to talk to your representative or senator about, you can go every month every 4 or 6 weeks, once a quarter. You decide how often you want to go. But when you go, they'll get familiar with you, but maybe pick 2 or 3 different people each time, different advocates, so that you're coming, but the legislator is seeing fresh faces, and you're bringing a bunch of examples from people that they know that maybe you don't, so that we can see that the problem is truly as big as it is. Remember to pick one main focus per meeting, maybe per month or per contact. Now, you might be getting a lot of calls to action on a lot of different topics. So you can call for each one of those, you can call, you can fill out a bunch of different witness slips. But what you might be focusing on that month might just be one at a time. And then you decide what's a good pace for you. Diane recommended once a month at minimum. Don't go any more frequent than that for meetings, but you can do it from that however frequently works for you. And when your meetings might happen, remember that they might be with the staffers or the legislator. And they have certain things that they can and they can't say. Sometimes we can get frustrated when we're in the meetings because they're not answering the questions they want, but sometimes they legally can't. So that would be another great thing to look back at that October meeting that Diane, because she shared some specifics on that. Next slide, please. So here's some legislative trackers that I have found. They're the official website for the US, Federal Legislative Information, congress.gov. They've got some ways that you can follow bills. There's an official website for the Illinois legislative information. Now, the older version of the ILGA, there was a way to have a tracker. I have not found that on the new one. If any of you do find it, let me know. It was a little confusing to use, honestly, but there were ways to find some useful information. And then there's a couple of non-governmental sites, govtrack.us and Plural Policy. Plural Policy has got a free plan where you can look up however much you want. You can actually track 5, whether it's federal, state, or local level policy, where they'll automatically send you information. So it's really great. And I know a lot of people that just use that free site to follow things. If you are really into it, or if this is your job, they've got some paid plans that where you can get a lot more fancy with it, but not necessary to use those. You can definitely use the free plans, and just if you know how to use them and look up your bills, you can get a lot of information. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
No worries. So calls to action. This is where a lot of times you are working with an organization that you really trust and you know they're like-minded. The Arc of Illinois has advocacy updates that they send out. And to answer your question, April, this is one of those places where I have found the last one that I saw was lovely. They listed out exactly, these are the questions you're going to ask, and this is how you fill it in. And if you want the legislation to go this way, you would consider yourself a proponent or an opponent, because sometimes the wording can get really tricky. I think StarTech might be another site, and I'm not sure if I have listed here, but sometimes they'll, I believe, put some of the legislation things out in plain language, so that can be helpful as well. But if you ever have a question, just email or call the organization that sent it out to you and say, which one is which? You know, I want it to go this way, so am I a proponent or opponent? The Illinois Council of Developmental Disabilities, if you go to this as an email and just let them know that you want to be on their list, they send out calls to action. Access Living, advocacy newsletter, Rev Up National, which is the American Association of People with Disabilities, they send some out as well. And there's lots of different people, and this is just the disability world. There are so many different marginalized groups that you might want to find people that you're like-minded with so that you can be aware of. It's great if in January we know there's a lot of bills coming out, we can go and put in disability and see all the bills that are coming up in our topic, or maybe Medicaid and see all the bills coming up. But these are great. This is a great way for, there's only so many hours in a day. The people in these organizations, that's their job. And so then they can help keep us informed. All right, next slide, please. Preparing for action. I have made up just a little sheet, one-page sheet to ask questions. So you can go, what are the topics that I'm thinking of that are important to me right now? Of those, what's my one that I am going to focus on? And so it's a place where you can brainstorm and write those things down. And we're going to have a link. It's in the slides, but also we'll put it in the chat here. A one-pager, a lot of times we keep that as a half page, but it's something that you put your name, your address, so they know that you're one of their constituents, what the topic is, and then maybe just a brief bullet story of why this matters to you. And the legislators will actually take these and share it with other legislators, almost like business cards, like, hey, we're talking about a Medicaid one. Here's something that you really need to read so that you're aware of. So that's a really, really effective. Diane's eyes just lit up when I asked about one-pagers because she's like, yes, because they're used to using them. And if you have it already, they will get used. Brainstorm different people who you might want to invite to schedule to go with you. Maybe come up with a bunch of names and which 2 or 3 people am I going to include this month? We talked about elevator speeches and 3-minute presentations in our Going Home Coalition October meeting with Gary Arnold, and he did a great job. We've got some links on how to prepare your elevator speech, how to do your testimony blueprint. We've got those in the resources so that you can just have a guide to walk you through it. And remember, you can always reach out to Rio, reach out to me, reach out to other people that you're doing advocacy with to help to prepare some of those presentations and practice with. Remember to share those through your emails and social media. Can do a quick video of yourself giving your elevator speech, and then you've got something you can put on a 1-minute short if you want to, and get comfortable completing the witness slips. We've got one of the links here is filling out a witness slip. If you go through that presentation, you'll see examples of what it is. And I find that if I get familiar with it, then when I'm presented with a new one, I'm more comfortable. And again, just let us know if you have questions. We're happy to talk with you about it. Next slide, please. So these are some of those things. Creating a legislative contact plan is a little bit of what that last slide was. There's tips on creating a one-pager. Effective advocacy tips are what Diane Husby Gordon had shared with us last time, and there's the link for filling out witness slips. Next slide, please. And here are the links for the storytelling that I was talking to you about, and Gary talks about in great detail in our October session that you can catch on the Going Home website or YouTube page. Next slide, please. All right, so conclusion. We're all wanting to work for a better today and a better tomorrow. We just need to make our plans, work our plans, know that when we're working our plans, there are going to be problems. Just be ready for them. And then just kind of roll with the punches with that. Talk with the people around you, reach out to us so that we can come up with just workarounds. And sometimes when there's a problem, it ends up our workaround helps us to be even more effective than we would have otherwise. Invite other people to speak up and speak out. And just like we talk about with Rev Up, register, educate yourself and the people around you, take the time to vote and use your power because it really does make a difference. Next slide, please. And that's all I have for you. I hope the overview was helpful. If you have any questions, you can definitely let us know. But we've got a few minutes left. And so I want to turn it over to April. Do we have any questions? April will guide us through that process.
we have a few minutes. Do you have any questions? Feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat.
Bob has a question.
Bob,
Yes, I I just I just wanted to say thank you, Jennifer, for doing the presentation. I think you did a great job. However, uh basically everything you covered I already knew. But it's uh it's always good to learn, it's always good to learn something uh again, like my question is when you're talking about stories, are you talking about the story of my life or the story of the what you're advocating for?
I missed the first part of it. You asked me, are we talking about what we're advocating for, or?
When you when you talk about when you talk about telling your story, are you talking about the my personal story or are you talking about what I'm advocating for and uh for that particular moment?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. Very good. And the answer is a little bit of both. So, um, a lot of times when we are talking about the specific thing you're focusing on in the moment, a lot of times there is a personal story that you might have that you can pull in. You're not necessarily telling your overall story. That might be appropriate in some cases, but sometimes you might just want to talk about a very specific time when whatever this topic impacted you. So, if you've ever had to, I've had a time in my life where we used a food pantry. So I can, if I'm not in the position at this moment where I'm required or relying on SNAP benefits, but I could use that time of how important it was for that food pantry to have things available for me and what happens when they didn't. So take little snippets of something that happened. And if you personally don't have a story, with permission from the other person, you can use a little snippet of somebody else's story if they would like you to do it. So but the idea is if we can add something personal in there so that they can relate that and connect that with you, and then that legislator has got that in their mind. Um, Bob or Jennifer or Susan, this made a difference in their life. So does that help?
I usually uh I usually do that anyway because I use I'll use the um I'll give you an example. I went down to Springfield like last week to testify for HBS and I used a personal story saying that if the federal government doesn't keep funding Medicaid and HCBS, then I'm going to lose my home along with a lot of other people like myself, and I don't feel like I don't feel like I want to go into a nursing home. So please keep funding HCBS and and um and that's what I did a few weeks ago. So I basically put my life on the table and said, "This is how I live." So there you go.
Yes, that's perfect. That's a perfect example. Thank you so much. And for anybody else who is here with us today, Bob's done this an awful lot. So if you want some advice on how, somebody who's been there and done that, he's a great guy and might be able to give you some tips that'll help you with your presentation. So thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate you asking and sharing. That was great.
You're welcome.
We're just at 6 p.m., so I'm gonna go ahead and share our final screen if that's okay with everyone.
Thank you.
I just wanted to come on and say thank you so much, Jennifer. That was really informative. I hope everyone who was able to attend tonight learned a lot. And I think that, Jennifer, you did a great job at presenting, but also putting together some really, really useful resources for us all to follow. So if you head over to the chat, you can see that Greg has dropped in all of those amazing resources that Jennifer compiled for us. And you will also be able to get access to those resources once we share out the meeting recording, the notes, and all of our resources. So in about a week, all of this information will be sent out to you. In the meantime, Greg dropped both mine, and Jennifer's emails in the chat, so you can just send a message to either one of us. Just to let everyone know what we have coming up on the agenda for November, November 24th at 5 and November 26th at 10, you'll have a chance to get to know me a little bit more. I am Rio Goodwin Perez. I'm the new director of the Going Home Coalition. During that meeting, you will learn a little bit about me, and you'll have the chance to let me know what issues have been on your mind that you want to be addressed by the Going Home Coalition in the new year. We will not be holding any Going Home Coalition or Rev Up Illinois meetings for the month of December. And if you have any questions in the meantime, you can contact me or Jennifer. And then also, Chewy Camposano and Tavares Wesley asked that we invite everyone here to the weekly WOW meetings. WOW stands for Worth Our While, and WOW meetings are time for collaborating and connecting as self-advocates. Those are hosted by Chewy and Tavares, and those happen each Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. I'm going to drop the information here into the chat right now. So if you're interested in attending those meetings, you can follow this Zoom meeting ID. The meeting this Friday is going to be a karaoke party, and then Thanksgiving Day will be a special gathering event for folks who want to celebrate together from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add? Well, great. Thank you everyone so much for attending. It was nice to be in space with you all. I hope that you'll all make time to attend our Going Home Coalition meeting on the 24th or the 26th. And I hope you all stay warm until then. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Bye, April.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Rio.
Good night,
Everyone have a good night. Good
Thank you,
night.
Deb.
Yeah, of
Bye.
course.